Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Before we get into today's show, please do me a small favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're just about to hit 41,100, so go and do that right now. And be sure to like the video as well. Let's try and see 500 likes on today's episode. Now, the question I've got for you this morning is a simple one. If Manchester United could sign any player in the summer, who would it be? Obviously, be realistic. There's no point saying we're going to get Mbappe or Haaland because that's just not going to happen. So who should Manchester United be looking at in the summer window? Obviously, the January window was incredibly disappointing. We'll talk about that in a minute. All of the news coming out this morning is suggesting that we're going to focus on the summer window. That's what the media have been briefed, clearly, that the summer window is going to be the big one. That's where they're going to spend the money. That's where they're going to back Ruben Amorim. Who should we sign? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to give me more than one player name, that would obviously be great, but one player name is what I'm asking for. So get in the comment section below. And I'm going to start off the show with this topic: what do Manchester United need to do in the summer? So I'm going to start off with what I think is the most important position on the pitch, and it's a striker. I said this last summer. I said Højlund and Xerxes is not going to be enough. We need another striker. We need a proper number 9. Xerxes not a number 9, and Højlund is still developing, learning. For me, he should be the third choice striker at a team like Manchester United. For me personally, he's not. Like, who would you rather have, Evan Ferguson or Højlund, as an example? I would say they're both kind of level playing field players. Evan Ferguson has left Brighton to go on loan to West Ham. Rasmus Højlund should be going off on loan somewhere, I think, and learning his trade. Next season, if we get a proper number 9, he should go off somewhere in the Premier League. You know, maybe a club in the bottom half, like an Everton. I mean, we're in the bottom half, aren't we? But you know what I mean. A club who are typically in the bottom half, an Everton, a West Ham, somebody like that. He should go off, learn his trade, come back stronger. That would be the best thing for Man United and the best thing for his development. So for me, I would say a striker, and I'm going to go with the obvious one. It has to be Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon. That would be the player that I go all out for. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of competition for Gyökeres. We know Arsenal want a striker. Who they're going to go for, that's the big question. But yeah, for me, the number one priority should be a striker because we don't score goals and we do create chances. Before people come and say, oh, but we don't ever get any chances, we are creating chances now. And to be honest, you might not like this, but we were creating chances under Erik ten Hag. We just weren't finishing them. If you look at the stats when Erik ten Hag was the manager before he got sacked this season, our XG, our expected goals, was one of the highest in the Premier League. But we just weren't converting the chances. So the problem's never been actually creating the chances. It's been finishing the chances. And if you have a clinical, ruthless number 9 in there, someone like, I'm not saying we get Harry Kane, but somebody like that, you know, a proper striker, a Gyökeres, a Harry Kane, an Erling Haaland, somebody like that who just finishes chances, we'd be in a much better position than we are now. But obviously at the moment, we're relying on Xerxes and Højlund, and the manager's lost so much faith in them that he's putting Kobbie Mainoo up front as a striker. And that just shows how desperate we are for an attacker. So that would be my number one priority, get a striker. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Who should Manchester United sign as the number one priority? In relation to the rest of the squad, I'm going to go through that really, really quickly. Obviously, we've sorted the left wing-back position now. We've got Patrick Dorgu, so I think that's kind of all right. I think right wing-back, I think it definitely needs addressing, but you have obviously got options there. You've got Dalot, you've got Mazraoui. Obviously, Amad Diallo's played at right wing-back and looks really, really good. So maybe that wouldn't be the immediate priority. I think we should definitely be buying another centre-back. Martinez is going to be out apparently. It could be as long as until 2026, Lisandro Martinez. He's done his ACL and his MCL. So he's had 2 major injuries in one here. So he's going to be out for a minimum of, people are saying, 6 to 9 months minimum. And a lot of people are saying that a lot of players don't come back from this injury very well and it becomes a recurring problem. So for me, Martinez needs replacing now. I know we've got Aiden Heaven, but I'll be honest, I've never seen him play football before, so I don't know whether he's someone we can rely on immediately. But I think a centre-back is definitely something we need to look at. A CDM, I would say Edison from Atalanta. That should be the option we go for. So far we've got a striker, a central defensive midfielder and a centre-back. And then I think we desperately need to buy some more attacking players. And obviously we'll talk about one of those players in a minute. And that player is Quenda from Sporting Lisbon. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. This is obviously for the summer. This isn't for now. I can see Fred asking in the chat, where is the money going to come from? That's a good question, but you have to remember, okay, in the summer, Jadon Sancho moves to Chelsea. That's confirmed, 25 million. Marcus Rashford will definitely leave. That'll be a minimum of 40 million, 100% profit. So that's 65 million already there. Malacia, we'll talk about in a minute. He's on the way out, 10 million euros. So that's already 80 million euros, roughly. Who else have we got that will be going? Obviously, Lindelof and Johnny Evans, both of their deals are up. And Eriksen. That will be a 150 a week for Eriksen, 150 a week for Lindelof, and about 100 a week for Johnny Evans. So that's 400 grand a week saved. What's that a season? 20 million a season saved in wages for those three players. Then you've got Casemiro, who will most likely leave. That will probably get you another 20 million and 350 grand a week saved. So this whole excuse of where are we going to get the money from? The money is there to be got. It's just down to Ineos to do clever deals and to move players on. That's what they need to do. So let's not allow them to use this narrative of, oh, we don't have money. Where are we going to get the money from? They can raise the funds easily. They've raised the funds by getting rid of Casemiro, getting rid of Rashford, the money from Sancho, obviously letting Eriksen, Johnny Evans, Lindelof go. There's a substantial amount of money there to be made. So this whole narrative of we don't have any money is rubbish. And the most likely option as well is players like Xerxes and Højlund. There will be interest in these players in the summer. There will be Italian clubs who are coming back in for players like Xerxes and Højlund. And maybe we have to make the tough decision and say, you know what, it hasn't worked for these two players. Let's move them on. Obviously, Xerxes is a relatively easy player to move on. He's not on big wages, and we didn't pay that much money for him. I think we paid about 35 million for him, pounds. So we could easily get our money back for Xerxes, I think. Højlund, obviously, you won't be able to get your money back. I think we paid around 65 million pounds for Højlund. 70. So let me just double check that. We paid 74 million euros for Højlund, which is 65 million pounds. Yeah. So we're not going to get our money back for Højlund. But obviously, you've got to remember that with transfers, it's because of amortization, it's split over the length of the contract. So his deal is a 5-year deal, Højlund, right? So at the moment, so what you do to work out the calculation is you get the transfer fee, which is 74 million euros. Okay, you divide that by 5, and then by the time it's the summer, Højlund will have been here for 2 years. So our amortization for Højlund will mean that 30 million euros of that money's gone. So we would only have about 44 million euros left to pay on Højlund. I think you'd get around 40 million euros for Højlund. So the point I'm making here is, if in the summer a bid came in for 40 million for Højlund, yes, that's less than what we paid for him. But in relation to financial fair play and PSR, you wouldn't actually be losing money. You'd be breaking even. Does that make sense? I know, like, logically it doesn't make sense, because you'll be like, well, we spent 74 and we're getting back 40. But obviously PSR and financial fair play, the calculations are done differently because they spread the transfer fees over the length of the contract. So we could move on somebody like Højlund for 40 million euros in the summer to an Italian club, and we would break even on him. So that's obviously something to consider. And obviously as well, we have to think that our goal now has to be to win the Europa League. That will mean Champions League football, which will then mean we have more money to spend. So we have to try and just focus on that. I would even sacrifice some Premier League games as it gets closer to, say we've got a massive fixture in the Europa League, like Jose Mourinho did 4 or 5 years ago. He sacrificed Premier League, didn't he? He just said, you know what, we're not going to do anything in the Premier League. I'm just going to go all out on the Europa League. And he ended up winning it, didn't he? Remember? Against Ajax? That was longer than 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't it? I reckon that was about 8 years ago now, wasn't it? Was it 8 years ago? It feels like a long time ago when we won the Europa League. I remember at the time, right? And this is where something I think changed for me. I remember when we won the Europa League, I was out with my friends and I said, I'm not going to celebrate winning the Europa League. We're better than that. Whereas now I'd be absolutely buzzing if we won the Europa League. And I think it was at that point that I realised that Manchester United as we know it is not Manchester United anymore. And us winning the Europa League is a massive achievement. Whereas if this was 10, 15 years ago, Manchester United would be ashamed to be in the Europa League under Sir Alex, wouldn't they? But yeah, it was in 2016 we won the Europa League. So it'll be 9 years ago this year. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, that's my take on that. Obviously, let me know your thoughts on the transfer window. Let me know on who you think we should sell, who you think we should bring in. I can see some people in the chat saying Quenda, Gyökeres, and Jonathan David. I like the sound of that. What else have we got? Somebody else is saying Gyökeres. Somebody's saying we should go for Isaac from Newcastle. I mean, that would be very, very expensive. Josiah says, when is the window closing? So the window closes in different countries at different points. The player we're going to talk about in a minute, the window closed last night. The Premier League window closed the day before. But yeah, let's move on to the Here We Go, because we do have one final Here We Go of the January transfer window, and it is in relation to Tyrell Malacia, who has now joined Feyenoord. Sorry, not Feyenoord, PSV, on loan until the end of the season with an option to buy for 10 million euros. How does everyone feel about that? I'm relatively happy with that. So this is coming from Fabrizio. He says, official confirmed, Tyrell Malacia has joined PSV Eindhoven on loan until the summer. He says there's a 10 million euros buy option. The salary is covered in full and there will be a 30% sell-on clause. I think this is a good deal. I don't think Malacia has a future at Manchester United. I don't think he was ever good enough for Manchester United. And if we managed to get 10 million euros for him in the summer, I would take that. We paid 15 million euros for him. But as I said, the way that transfers work, you spread that 15 million euros over the length of the contract. Okay? And he's only got 1 year left on his contract now. He's been at Manchester United, I think, for 3 years. So what you do is you do 15 million euros divided by the length of his contract, which is 4 years, times by the 3 years he's been here. So we've already paid about 11.5 million of his transfer fee already, of the 15 million euro transfer fee. So if we were to sell him in the summer for 10, we would make a profit of around nearly 7 million euros. Again, I know if you look at it, basic maths, 15 million minus 10, it sounds like we're losing money. But obviously, as I said, it's spread over the length of the deal. So 10 million euros in the summer would present around a 7 million euro profit for Manchester United. So again, there's another way of making some money. I know it's only 7 million euros, but it's better than nothing, isn't it? So I wish Malacia all the best. I think he tried hard. He was likeable, but I don't think he was ever good enough, to be honest. And I hope he goes to PSV. I hope he does well. You know, I hope he gets lots of game time. I hope he stays injury-free. They're top of the Eredivisie at the moment by 2 points ahead of Ajax. All the best to him. All the best to Malacia. And let's hope and pray that PSV decide to make it a permanent deal in the summer, because that would be a welcomed extra bit of cash for Manchester United. So yeah, all the best to him. And obviously as well, it's good that all of his wages are being covered. He's on around 75 grand a week at Manchester United, Tyrell Malacia. So I'm glad that all of that money is being saved. But at the same time, I do want to again bring up this point. So if you go through our January transfer business, right? So you've got Malacia on 75k a week. You've got Rashford on 325k a week, with Aston Villa paying 75. And PSV are paying all of that in full. And then the final one, you've got Anthony. He's on reported 150 grand a week with Real Betis paying 86% of it. So let's give you the calculation really, really quick. So you've got that plus 75 grand a week. So from getting rid of those 3 players, Manchester United are saving £450,000 per week in wages, okay? That's from the loans of Malacia, Anthony, and Rashford. And that doesn't include any bonuses, any extras. That's the very, very bare minimum Manchester United receive in wages from those clubs. And obviously, they'll be on loan until the summer. So we're now going to work out how many weeks it is till the summer, which is 20 weeks. So between now and the summer, Manchester United will save. So we've got 450 grand a week. times by 20. That is 9 million in wages that they've saved between now and the end of the season. And interestingly enough, right, you can see how they've done their calculations here. So they've saved 9 million in wages. And then you've got Patrick Dorgu that we paid 25 million for. But obviously, as I said, you don't, unless they have a release clause, you never pay all of that transfer fee up front. So the Patrick Dorgu deal will probably be split across the length of his contract, which is a 5-year deal. Okay, so you do 25 million divided by 5, which equals 5 million. So in the January transfer window, if you look at it on a really, really basic level, Man United will have made around 4 million profit. That's from letting 3 players go out on loan, collecting 9 million in wages, and then signing Patrick Dorgu for 25 million. But obviously that fee spread across the 5 years of his deal. So that would mean that our outgoing spend was 5 million on Patrick Dorgu, and our incoming will be 9 million in wages. So we actually made money in January, which means that when the summer comes around, we've got absolutely no excuses to be like, we don't have any money, because we've actually made money in January. And that doesn't include any of like the youth players as well. I know quite a few youth players left. So I haven't obviously bothered calculating all of their wages and stuff, but just on the kind of first team squad, those 3 people have gone and we've signed 1 player. So yeah. Right, let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Let me have a little sip of my tea. Somebody in the chat is saying, what is your thoughts on Paul Pogba being given a 3-month contract? I mean, at this point, do I think Manchester United should bring back Paul Pogba? Probably not. But could it make us any worse? Probably not. If Paul Pogba wanted to come to Manchester United on a pay-as-you-play contract, I would probably consider it at this point. I mean, we didn't strengthen in the January window. Our midfield looks pretty weak. You've got 2 20-year-olds as your central attacking midfielders. You've got Kobbie Mainoo as your striker. Could Paul Pogba make it any worse? I don't know. There are some people saying that Paul Pogba and Manchester United is a thing. I don't believe it personally. I reckon he'll most likely go to Saudi, is my guess. But I know there are some people in the fan base who are really, really desperate for Paul Pogba to come back. And I can understand why. He's a good player, but he hasn't played football for like 3 years. Ever since he left Manchester United, if you look at his stats, right? Paul Pogba in his prime was one of the best, if not the best midfielders in the world. When he won that World Cup with France, he was absolutely world class, right? But you look at his stats since he left Manchester United. He left Manchester United because he supposedly fell out with the manager and he was injury prone, okay? So last season, he played 52 minutes across the whole season. The season before that, he played a total of 161 minutes across the whole season. So, and then you go to the season before that, which I think was his last season at Manchester United. He played 1,700 minutes across this whole season, which is still not very much. It's the equivalent of about 20 games in a 50, 60 game season. So even when Paul Pogba was in his last season at Manchester United and he was fit, he still only played about a third of our games because he was injured. And then as soon as he went to Juventus, as I said, the season he left Man United, 161 minutes, which is nothing. That's like a game and a half. And then the season after that, 52 minutes. So since he's left Manchester United, in all competitions, he's only played 200 minutes of first-team football. 200 in 2 seasons, or 3 seasons even. I know he was banned for a bit, but 200 minutes in 3 seasons. I mean, so in response to the person in the chat, would I take Paul Pogba back? If we didn't have to give him like any agent fees, any commissions, and he wanted to do a pay-as-you-play contract, yeah, why not? I think he's experienced. He's a good player. I would give him that opportunity, but otherwise, no, not a hope in hell. I wouldn't give him a wage, like a set wage, because the data shows that he's most likely going to come to Manchester United and just be injured, regardless of the whole off-field doping issue. Before even that, he wasn't playing football because he was injured all the time. So yeah, that's my take on that. But I'd be interested to know what you guys think. He would improve our team on paper, but that's only if he stays fit, which he probably won't. So, yeah. A lot of people are saying that Pogba's too toxic. I mean, we don't know that, do we? What are we basing that off? He fell out with Jose Mourinho, but Jose Mourinho's toxic as well. You know, like, there were points in Manchester United where he was a good player. You can't deny that, Paul Pogba. So, yeah, but my answer stays the same. Would I give him a contract, a long-term contract? Would I give him a salary? No. I'd literally say, you're welcome to come back and train with Manchester United. Obviously, you've come through the youth academy, but we're not going to pay you unless you actually are playing games. And if you know, that's what I would say. So, yeah, but I would not be bothered if we didn't get him either. Dean says that he'd be a bad influence on the younger players in the dressing room. I mean, we don't know that, though. What are we basing that assumption off, that he'd be a bad influence? How do you know that Bruno's not a bad influence? How do you know that Højlund's not a bad influence? Like, we don't know these people on a personal level. We're saying people are toxic based on 5-second clips you see of him and Mourinho arguing on the training pitch once. You know? He's definitely a character. I'll give you that. You know, with his hair, you know, he has crazy hairstyles and all the rest of it. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly would not be bothered or happy if he came back. I'm simply just answering the question. Would I take Paul Pogba back for a couple of months, pay as you play contract? Maybe, but otherwise no. And just to be very, very clear, the likelihood of what I'm suggesting happening is probably next to zero. There is no way on earth that Paul Pogba is going to come to Manchester United and not want massive wages. And there is no way that Manchester United would give him massive wages. So it's not going to happen. It's really a stupid question to ask, because Paul Pogba is going to want to earn as much money as possible. And to do that, he'll have to go to Saudi, realistically. You know? He's not going to come to Manchester United and do a pay-as-you-play contract, as I'm suggesting. He just won't. Everybody who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour, please do subscribe to the channel. We're only 2 subscribers away from 41,100. So 2 away. Go and do that right now, and be sure to like the video as well. We've got over 500 people watching this morning. So yeah, let's try and get to the 500 likes target. Yeah, let's talk about Giovani Quenda then from Sporting Lisbon, because lots and lots of journalists are reporting that Manchester United have already verbally agreed a deal with Sporting Lisbon. The story first broke from David Ornstein a couple of days ago, and he says that Manchester United are now officially exploring a deal for Giovani Quenda of Sporting Lisbon. He says Manchester United are expected to pay around 40 million euros. He says this will be in the next window, i.e. the summer. I would love to see this guy at Manchester United. He's 17 years of age. He looks like an absolutely quality player. And, you know, he's a player that obviously Ruben Amorim knows. He's come through the Sporting Youth Academy, and he would obviously suit our system really, really well. So hopefully we can kind of get this deal official before the summer, because I think there'll be a lot of teams interested in him. He primarily is a right winger, so maybe he goes in as the right wing back. I think that's the position he plays for Sporting. Let me just double check. I know he's a right winger. Let's have a look at where he's played. Yeah, he's played 21 times this season in that position. So yeah, that would be the best position for him. How are Sporting doing since... they're doing terribly since Ruben Amorim left. Really badly. I think they're out of the Champions League. Let's have a look. Sporting... But yeah, I think he'd be a great signing. I'd be excited to see him join Manchester United. Obviously, as David Ornstein says, this is one for the summer. This is not one for now. 40 million euros would be good. I'd be happy for that. But obviously, it's not going to help us now, is it? So, yeah. But yeah, I'd love to see Quenda at Manchester United. Let me know if you agree in the comment section. The next story we've got for you is on Kobbie Mainoo. So this is coming out from multiple different people this morning, that apparently Manchester United are trying to tie Kobbie Mainoo down to a long-term contract. I'm not sure how I feel about this. From a Manchester United's perspective, obviously I want Kobbie Mainoo to stay here for the rest of his career, forever. I love him. I think he's quality. But, so the story says Ruben Amorim and the Manchester United hierarchy have immediately turned their attention towards convincing, emphasise the word convincing, Kobbie Mainoo to sign a new contract in the aftermath of the January window closing. So we obviously know a couple of weeks ago the story broke that Mainoo was asking for wages of around 150, 200 grand a week, which we all thought was ridiculous. When people like Garnacho are on 50, I think Mainoo should be in that same wage bracket, 50 to 100 tops. 200 is way too much for a 19-year-old who's only played really one season at Manchester United in a team that finished 8th last year. Would you agree? And obviously Man United are 14th this season. So you shouldn't really be rewarding somebody with a huge new contract in a team that are underperforming. He's currently paid 20,000 a week at Manchester United, which is, let's be honest, not very much. So to go from 20 grand a week to a 200 grand a week, especially when your team is at the moment closer to relegation than it is to top 4, that doesn't really make sense to me. But at the same time, if I'm Kobbie Mainoo, if I'm his agent, I'm looking at the situation at United and saying, well, you've got Casemiro who sits on the bench every week, earning 350k a week. I want 200. And when you look at it like that, 200 grand a week is perfectly reasonable. So the big problem is obviously that we still have people like Luke Shaw, 200 grand a week, Rashford, 325 grand a week, Casemiro, 350 grand a week. And I would even throw, and I know people might disagree with this, I would even throw Bruno into this conversation. You know, Bruno got rewarded with a massive contract in the summer, even though we just finished 8th, even though we'd underperformed, even though he'd had a poor season. Manchester United still went and gave him 300 grand a week contract with 75 grand a week of potential bonuses as well. So Bruno at the moment at United can earn up to 375 grand a week. And if I'm Kobbie Mainoo, I'm sat there thinking, well, I played as much minutes as Bruno did last season. I contributed as much as Bruno did last season. 200 grand a week is perfectly reasonable, you know? But I don't know. I was just thinking on a kind of human level, if I wasn't a Man United fan, I don't know. I don't really know how to word this, but obviously I want Kobbie Mainoo to stay at Man United. Obviously I want, our young players to stay. But from an actual personal level, I can see why we're having to convince them, because what are they really signing up for? The fan base is toxic and divided at the moment. A player has a bad game and they just get abuse. And we're at the moment, I think, 9 points off relegation. He could go to a Chelsea, he could go to another club and earn 200 grand a week and probably be in a better position than we are. So I don't know, it's a difficult one. Obviously I'd love Kobbie Mainoo to stay, but on a human level, you only have one career. And he's going to have a long, hard think about whether he actually thinks that Man United are going in the right direction. And I'll be honest, right? When Ruben Amorim joined Manchester United, I thought we're going to now start going in the right direction. And at the moment, I think we're still in like a crossroads. We're still at this point where one way could send us to failure, and the other way could send us to success. And I still think it's 50-50 as to whether it's going to be a success with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. And this isn't specifically on Ruben Amorim, This is generally. Maybe forget the manager as a whole. It's almost impossible to say whether Man United will be successful in the next 5 to 10 years. I think more people watching this video will say that they're not going to be successful, but being diplomatic, I would say it's 50-50. Whereas say like Man City will probably be back next year. They'll probably win the Premier League. That's not a crazy opinion, is it? Whereas with Man United, next season, we could finish 4th or we could finish 10th. There's absolutely no way of predicting. Ruben Amorim could be sacked in a year, or he could be challenging for the title. It's just completely unpredictable. But overall, there's nothing really showing me that we're going in the right direction at the moment, to be honest. If you look at it on paper, since Ruben Amorim's come in, the performances have been equally as bad. We're scoring less goals and we've got less points. So, yeah. But obviously I would love to see Mainoo stay, though, just to be very, very clear. I can see people asking to run a poll. Okay, yeah, we'll do a poll quickly. Let's do a poll. I'm pretty sure most people are going to say no, aren't they? So the question will be this. Should United give Mainoo 200k a week per week? So the question is going to be this: should United give Mainoo a 200 grand per week contract? I'd be surprised if many people say yes to this. They should definitely give him a new contract, but 200 grand a week is too much. I personally think somewhere between 50 and 100. Tops. He's on 20k a week at the moment. If you gave him 200, that's a 10 times pay increase. So I think even if you gave him like 75k a week, that's still nearly 4 times what he's currently earning. You know? So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the poll already, I don't even need to bother running this poll. 90% of people watching the video say that we shouldn't give Mainoo 200k a week. He will have clubs that will pay him that, though. That's the thing. Chelsea would pay him that, I reckon, and obviously they're interested in him reportedly. I think other clubs in the Premier League would pay him that as well. Lots of people are saying 50 grand. 50 grand a week. Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that. Garnacho's on 50 grand a week, and he plays more than Mainoo does. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It's been an amazing show this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. If this has been your first time watching today, please do subscribe. I'm live every single morning about 7:30, 8 a.m. UK time. So, yeah, make sure you join me for the next one. Hopefully things start getting better. I hope you all have a great day. This has been Kieran, and you've been watching Daily Red Devil. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.